There are so many benefits from doing yoga. Many times the teacher will say, right when you start the class, set your intention. So I'm going to give you a couple suggestions on what your intention can be, and at the same time explain these amazing benefits. So we'll start off right away with the physical. That's what people think about mostly when you're talking about yoga postures or asana. What are the physical benefits? Strength. Flexibility is probably what most people think of at first. And a lot of times people say, well, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible, which drives me nuts. It's like saying, I can't drink water because I'm thirsty.
That's crazy.
You want to do yoga so you can get flexible. It's not about being the most flexible person in the room or trying to keep up with somebody, because nobody's really watching you anyway. Nobody really cares how flexible you are because they're in their own world. They're on their own focus. Hopefully they're focused on themselves. So you are going to gain flexibility like you've never seen before, because the yogis have the science about understanding how we get into the stretch and the flexibility. One of the things we don't do in yoga is bounce. You're going to see people bouncing and they try to touch their toes all the time. They're going down, bouncing, which drives me nuts. You want to slowly work your way down. We go into a slow, smooth motion. And as we go slow and smooth, the muscles begin to become more pliable. For the physical, flexibility is number one. And after flexibility is strength. A lot of people don't realize how much strength it takes to do yoga. You really need the combination of the two. Flexibility and strength combination. My mother was extremely flexible. She could sit in the lotus position all day long, but for her to balance on one leg for 3 seconds to save her life, she had a big problem because she didn't have the muscles to support that flexibility. So in yoga, when you're doing a posture like standing bow, standing head to knee, you have to have the range of motion for your body to stretch into the pose, but then you have to hold it. And for you to hold it takes a lot of strength. So I always say you want to have a balance of both flexibility and strength combination. A lot of people that come to the class and they have either one or the other. People that come in from the gym, they're doing a lot of weights, they don't have as much range of motion. So for them, flexibility is their challenge. For people that are more flexible, like my mother, not as strong, their strength is their challenge. So you want to work on whatever it is that you need to work on, make that a priority. If you need more flexibility, you got to be thinking about softening into the pose, breathing more. If you need more strength, you have to think about holding the breath more and tightening and strengthening your body. You have a different intention. If you're not flexible or strong, then you got to do yoga every day. That's for sure.
You can do it.
And the third part of the physical, flexibility, strength, balance. Once again, doing postures like standing head to knee, standing bow, eagle pose, you got to balance on one leg. You got to find your focus, you're finding your balance, which again complements the flexibility and strength. So physically, flexibility, strength, balance, it's there. You're going to get better, stronger, no question. And if you're enjoying this type of video, you want to get better in yoga and want to know all about the different ways you can improve in your practice, I want you to hit the subscribe button right now and hit the like button to this video. That brings us to the mental aspect. Number 2, and you can set your attention for that. People sometimes come into class not because they want to get flexible and strong, because they want to relieve stress. They get frazzled. They want to be able to find that present moment, how they can de-stress from the world and find that peace of mind. And I always say the best time to realize that is right after the class. And the type of yoga that I teach, which is hot yoga, after the class, you feel amazing, but at the same time, you're spent. So you're laying there and it's so easy just to get into that present moment, to get into the breath. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. You don't have anxiety. You have a present moment stillness and consciousness, which is amazing. And also many times people come into class because they're grieving, because they're getting over a very traumatic experience. Maybe they just lost somebody or they just broke up from a relationship. So this is really an extraordinary way to find your centeredness. Back in the old days, I was on television many times talking about all these different ways yoga can help people. And I would bring in doctors with me on the show. I brought in my son's pediatrician. We talked about yoga for kids. I brought in an allergist. We talk about yoga for allergies. And I brought in an addictionologist from Mount Sinai Hospital in Miami. And she talked about she was using yoga as part of their program, part of the recovery program, because they were feeling so wonderful after the practice. It was a high that they were experiencing that was now substituting the high they were getting from whatever drug they were using, whatever the drug of choice they had. So that I thought was really interesting. Getting over traumatic experiences, finding your center, getting over anxiety, finding that present moment, that's going to be available to you in the practice from the mental side. Bringing us to number 3, and this is the spiritual side. Now, some people come into the yoga class because they want to find that spiritual connection. But if you come to a yoga class, usually people are coming in to do postures, to exercise, to get stronger and more flexible, to relieve stress. Not as many people come in for the spiritual side, but I believe that they find and start to explore the spiritual side as a result. And that's what happened to me personally. I started yoga with Bikram in 1980 in Los Angeles. I was about 6 months into my practice, and I was at a friend's house, and I looked on his nightstand, and there was the book, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I started to read that book, and that book literally changed my life. I didn't realize at the time that Paramahansa Yogananda's younger brother was Vishnu Ghosh, who was Bikram's teacher and guru. So very much Paramahansa Yogananda is really the forefather of our yoga, but from the spiritual side. So his younger brother, Vishnu Ghosh, chose not to teach the spiritual side of yoga. He taught more the physical side, using postures to heal the body. But as I started reading Autobiography of a Yogi, one of the most classic spiritual books ever written, it was the only book that Steve Jobs had on his iPhone when he died. It's what turned on George Harrison and the Beatles to the whole concept of yoga in the Far East. I began to understand the spiritual side of yoga and why they chose the word yoga in the first place. They chose the word yoga because it's a union between man and God, man and the universe. So the spiritual part of yoga, when you can start to bring that as your intention into your practice, if you decide to make that an intention in your practice, when we can embrace the spiritual side of yoga and embrace the physical, mental, and spiritual side of yoga, then I believe the real magic starts to happen. This is where the transformation takes place. This is how we start to evolve. The reason why they created yoga in the first place is because people were suffering. So they said, well, okay, why are they suffering? They intuited the reason why people are suffering, why we're still continue to suffer to this day, because we believe we're in the illusion that we're separate beings. So they chose the word yoga as the union between man and God to realize, this is what they call it, God realization, self-realization, God realization, to realize we're not separate. We shatter the illusion that we're separate, and we're connected with the universe and connected to God. But this is really important in the way that you see God. Not yoga's definition of God, not Yogananda's definition of God, not my definition of God, but your definition of God. Yogananda has a wonderful saying, talk to God in the language of your own heart. So there's many things to think about: the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and all the different aspects of the three. We bring them together to find that connection, to find that union. And that's why yoga is so amazing. You have all these different ways and different intentions you can have within your class, after your class, working on your yoga, taking your yoga off the mat into your world. Find the magic. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. And I thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye, guys.